My husband donated my wedding dress to his mistress. Then her bridal fitting called me. I kept my wedding dress in a cedar box under the guest bed for 7 years. It was not expensive, but my grandmother sewed the sleeves by hand before she died, so to me, it was priceless. My husband, Evan, knew that. He used to say, "One day our daughter will wear it." We did not have a daughter yet. We did not even have a baby. But I kept the dress because it felt like a piece of my grandmother was still waiting with me. Then one Tuesday, a bridal boutique called and asked if I wanted the final alterations under my married name or maiden name. I said, "For what dress?" The woman said, "The vintage lace gown you donated for the charity wedding program." Donated? My stomach dropped before she even said the next sentence. The bride loves it, but she wants the sleeves removed. The sleeves! My grandmother's sleeves. I asked for the bride's name. The woman said Sienna Cole. Sienna was Evan's coworker. The same coworker who sent him memes at midnight. The same coworker he said was going through a hard breakup. The same coworker who once stood in my kitchen, looked at my wedding photo and said, "That dress is so timeless." I drove home so fast I barely remembered the road. The cedar box was gone. Not moved, not stored, gone. Evan came home an hour later carrying takeout like he had not just erased my grandmother from our house. I asked, "Where is my wedding dress?" His face did something I had never seen before. It prepared a lie. He said, "I thought you said you wanted to declutter." I said, "Where is it?" He sighed, like my grief was bad manners. Then he said, "Sienna needed a dress. It was just sitting there." Just sitting there, like memory is only valuable if it is being worn by the right woman. I asked why Sienna needed a wedding dress. He said, "She is getting married." I asked who the groom was. He did not answer. I already knew, but my body still wanted him to say it. Finally, he whispered, "Me." One word. 7 years gone. He told me he and Sienna were in love. He said he was planning to tell me after the office awards banquet because he did not want drama at work. He said the dress made sense because Sienna loved vintage things and I was never going to use it again. Then he said, "Your grandmother would want it to make someone happy." That is when I stopped crying. Not because I was calm, because something colder stepped in. I asked if Sienna knew the dress was mine. He said she knows you donated it. I said, "I did not donate it." He said, "Don't make this ugly." Ugly? He stole my wedding dress for his mistress and wanted me to keep the room pretty. I went to the bathroom, locked the door, and called the boutique. I told them the dress had not been donated. It had been taken without permission. The manager went silent. Then she said, Sienna's fitting was Friday, and Evan had signed the donation form. Signed! With my name! She emailed me the paperwork. There it was, my typed name, Evan's email, Sienna's appointment, and a note that said, "Donor gives full permission for lace sleeves to be removed." Full permission! My grandmother's hand-stitching reduced to a checkbox. I saved everything. Then I opened Evan's tablet. The messages were still synced.
Sienna had written, "Are you sure she won't ask about it?" Evan replied, "She is sentimental, but she avoids conflict. By the time she finds out, you will already have worn it." Then Sienna wrote, "I love that I get to walk down the aisle in the dress she thought made her special." That message did not break my heart. It focused it. I made a folder. Donation form, boutique emails, text messages, photos of the dress in my cedar box, pictures of my grandmother sewing the sleeves, a video from my wedding where she cried when I walked out wearing them. Then I called a lawyer. By Thursday night, I had a plan. Sienna's fitting was Friday afternoon. Evan told me he had a late meeting. I told him to have fun. Then I arrived at the boutique 30 minutes early with my lawyer, my sister, and my grandmother's old sewing notebook. The manager recognized me immediately and looked relieved. She said, "We paused alterations as soon as you called." Good. The dress was hanging in the private fitting room. My dress, still intact. The sleeves were pinned but not cut. I touched the lace and felt my knees almost give out. Then Sienna walked in. She was glowing until she saw me. Evan was behind her, holding coffee. The coffee hit the floor. Sienna said, "What is she doing here?" I said, picking up my property. She looked at Evan. He said my name like a warning. I held up the donation form. I said, "You forged my name." Sienna crossed her arms and said, "It was donated. You cannot just take back a donation because you are bitter." The manager stepped forward and said, "Actually, the donation is invalid." Sienna's face changed. Evan whispered, "Can we talk outside?" I said, "No. We are going to talk exactly where you tried to cut my grandmother's sleeves." Then came the show. I handed the manager a flash drive and asked if she could play the video file on the boutique consultation screen. She did. The first clip was my grandmother sewing the sleeves, her hands shaking, her voice saying, "Every stitch is a blessing." The room went quiet. The second slide was the forged donation form. The third was Evan's message. "She avoids conflict. By the time she finds out, you will already have worn it." The fourth was Sienna's message. "I love that I get to walk down the aisle in the dress she thought made her special." Sienna said, "That was private." I said, "So was my marriage." Evan tried to grab the flash drive. My lawyer said, "Touch it, and we add tampering." He froze. Then the boutique manager said the words that made Sienna start sobbing. "We will not be servicing this wedding." Sienna said, "My ceremony is in 2 weeks." The manager said, "Then you have 2 weeks to find a dress you did not steal." Evan's phone started buzzing nonstop. His boss was calling. Because the final twist was already moving. I had sent the same folder to his HR department. Not because of the affair, because Evan used his company email to arrange the fake donation pickup, and Sienna had used her work account to request the alterations during office hours. Their office awards banquet was that night, the one Evan wanted to wait until after. Instead, HR pulled both of them into a meeting before the appetizers were served. Sienna lost her promotion. Evan was suspended pending investigation. Their wedding venue called 2 days later because the boutique had flagged the forged donation as potential theft. Sienna messaged me from a fake account and said, "You ruined my wedding." I replied, "No, I recovered mine." Then I blocked her. Evan came home crying and asked if we could still handle the divorce quietly. I said, "You stole quiet when you stole the dress." The dress is back in the cedar box now. The sleeves are still there. My grandmother's stitches survived him. 6 months later, the divorce was final. I kept the house. Evan had to repay every legal cost tied to the forged donation. Sienna bought a clearance dress and posted no wedding photos. People asked if I felt bad. I do not. He gave my wedding dress to his mistress, so I showed up to her fitting and made sure everyone saw who it really belonged to.